Welcome back to the Fly Up Her podcast. I'm your host, Maya.
And I'm Maitana. Thank you for joining us for another episode.
Today's guest is joining us from Atlanta, USA. She's a first officer at Delta Airlines, currently flying the Boeing 757 and 767, and she previously served as captain at GoJet Airlines.
Born in Guinea, she moved to the US in 2009 to pursue her dream of becoming an airline pilot, and she now holds the remarkable title of being the first female commercial airline pilot of Guinea.
Anne-Marie, welcome to the Fly Up Her podcast. We are so honored to have you here with us today.
I am so honored to be on this podcast today. Thank you for having me, Maya. Thank you, Athena, for having me. I am very honored and just looking forward to this amazing discussion we're about to have.
So, Anne-Marie, you were born in Guinea. What made you fall in love with aviation as a child in Guinea?
Wow, so that is an amazing question. I had a very typical childhood in Guinea, upper middle class, and was very fortunate to be traveling growing up. I really am grateful for my parents to kind of exposing us to that as kids, and that's actually where I caught the bug for flying. Growing up, I never met a female pilot. Actually, I never met a black pilot, let alone a female pilot. But I knew from the age of 11 that I wanted to become a pilot. So that is just as simple as that. I've always wanted to be a pilot.
So, Anne-Marie, what pushed you to leave everything behind in Guinea and pursue flying in the US? Because obviously it's a big change moving from one country to another, adapting to the new environment, new people. So yeah.
So the transition actually was not as seamless, right? Because prior to moving to the US, I actually was raised in France. So my family moved to France when I was younger, and I've spent my preteens, teens, and I also went to university in France. And I think that opportunity to, live in an African environment, to move to Europe, to get exposed to the possibility of being able to accomplish more than I ever dreamed of, allowed me to open up my horizon and remind myself that you had this dream once. So I did a little bit of research, and that's when I decided that I wanted to be in America, because I knew that one, flight training, and I know you're probably aware of this, is really expensive in Europe. Very, very expensive. It's almost unattainable. So when I finished university, I actually wanted to move here before that, but I made a deal with my dad that I would, earn a degree first and then move. However, I never disclosed the reason why I wanted to move to the US. I just said that I wanted to go pursue my education. And so that's how I ended up in the US. That's how I ended up in Atlanta specifically. And when I came here, yes, major culture shock, but because of how I was brought up, traveling wasn't so much of an adjustment to be made. I mean, I already knew English, so that was a plus. I came here, I was in school, and I just knew from the beginning that what I wanted to do, and I just needed to figure out a way to make things work and ultimately, make my dream happen. Yes, big shock, but not more so just based off of my background. I felt like I was definitely built for the challenge. However, it ended up becoming a bigger challenge that I actually was prepared for. And the road has been not linear at all. It has been very, very bumpy, but I am so grateful to be in the space that I am in now.
So you mentioned that you didn't tell your parents or your dad the real intention why you moved to the US. At what point did you tell them that you wanted to be a pilot? And what was their reaction when you told them that you wanted to pursue aviation?
So I moved here 2009 and I started training in 2018. That's what 9 years went by, right? And in those 9 years, I started working, and my goal was to save up, and I had this big plan. And this whole time, no one had any idea. I did not disclose to my family that I was actually, in fact, in flight training until 1 week prior to my flight instructor exam. Now, remember, I know I'm seeing Athena's face like, no way. Yes, I promise you. I went through a fast-paced program. It was a 12 month program. And literally a week prior to my flight instructor check ride, my CFI, that's when I broke the news to my family that I'm a pilot. I've been in flight training for the past year. And of course, for them, everything started to make sense because I'm very close to my family. I have three younger brothers, and we talk all the time, daily, right? And I'm talking about like FaceTime calls, right? So they will call me at times, and I will be at the airport, and I'm having to like just figure out a way to not let them know. And it really made me feel uncomfortable because I felt like I was not being truthful. However, the way I approach every challenge in my life is exactly how I approached this challenge, which was lock in, stay focused, and do not allow any distractions to steer away from the end goal, right? And I knew that I needed to focus and do this. And then I knew that ultimately, when I do share the news, that they would absolutely be happy for me. And they're absolutely ecstatic. And of course, he was, why didn't you tell us sooner? And knowing me, it wasn't more so a question as to why. It was more so a, you could have told us and would have been very much supportive. you know the other part of it is that I'm still an African kid, right? I'm come from an African household, and so there is a certain um misconception about certain career fields that women can and cannot get into, not because we're told not to, but because we just don't even think about them. So the idea of me pursuing this male dominated career, I didn't want to put my family in any situation where they would have to explain to the community or things like that. We still have a very, like, we're still culturally very, like, ingrained. So I just didn't want to have to explain to anyone why I'm making this choice. And they didn't know that this has been a dream since I was a little kid. So I knew what I needed to do and just focus on it. And it worked out. It really did. It did in the end.
Wow,
Wow.
that's very
Wow.
shocking that you didn't say
Yeah.
anything to your parents. That's quite crazy, actually. But it's lovely to hear that they were very supportive in the end, and they were rooting for you. So I guess that's a good turnaround for telling them. But so you mentioned that you did your training in 12 months, so a fast track course. What was that experience like, and how did it shape your character as a pilot or as a person even?
Wow, as a person. So um, ultimately, I pursued aviation as a second career, right? Because I came in so much later into it. I mean, I was in my late 20s, going on to my 30s when I decided to actually pursue flight training. And so I was faced with a challenge of time, right? Because I heard a lot of people say that it took them years to get to, doing their flight training because of finances, because of time constraints. And so I just really listened to what everything came about, and I knew what I needed to do for myself. I saved up and decided to go to a fast-paced program, which was a 12 month program. It was absolutely very intense because I've been out of school for almost a decade before that, right? Because in Europe, you go to high school, then you go to university. You don't wait. There's no delay, right? So it had been almost a decade since I've been in school. So the brain is not as quick thinking, and you have to basically relearn how to study, relearn how to, like, get into the books and things like that. So it was absolutely challenging. However, it is the best decision I could have done for myself. Because taking that time off to just really focus on school, because that's what it is, for the year that I needed to be in the books, be in a very structured environment where I'm given all of the tools and the material to be able to be successful is absolutely what I needed. And it did set me up for success. It absolutely set me up for success. Um, Very intense. I mean, I was living, breathing, eating aviation 7 days out of 7. I would go to training. I would get to training 8 a.m. and sometimes I wouldn't leave until past midnight because sometimes you have night flights, right? But I was committed. I was determined to make this happen, and it worked out. It did.
Wow, that's really inspiring, honestly. Um, so after finishing your fast-paced track at school, what was the journey like from then until now? So what what airlines have you gone into and what's the experience been like?
So after completing my flight training in 2019, I became what we call a flight instructor, a certified flight instructor. So essentially, in the U.S., you have to have a total of 1,500 hours to be able to be eligible for the what we call the um, airline transport pilot rating. Right? It's just another license that you add on top of the gazillion you already have, but it basically makes you eligible for that. But you need the 1,500 hours. So what a lot of people do is once they finish their ratings and they become a flight instructor, they take on students and they teach students, and that's how they get their hours. So the benefit of that is that you're not paying for the hours anymore because you're getting paid to fly to teach people how to fly. So that was absolutely amazing. So I did that. My first flight instructing job was actually local here in Atlanta, and I started at a nonprofit organization. One of the oldest flight schools here is actually also happened to be Black owned. I'm just going to give them a little shout out. It's called the ACE Academy at Fulton County Airport. Absolutely amazing program. The founder, Julius Alexander, great, great, great. I think that in Atlanta, I think even I would even say in the US, he really set the foundation for what Black aviation looks like, and he's brought in so many young Black aviators, showing them because it is a nonprofit, so anybody can be there. They receive grants and funding, and they really are there for the community. So I wanted to give back. I wanted to be involved because me going through the journey that I went through, not having seen anyone who looks like me, even when I was in flight training, it really made me want to expose others to the possibilities of this career, right? This passion, because it is. I absolutely love what I do any day. So I started with that, and this kind of happened to be around the 2020 COVID. COVID happened. The flight school slowed down, because no one was really sure what was happening. I took the opportunity to fly private. So we call it Part 91. I was introduced to a private owner who actually owned his own airplane who just wanted to fly around for business for personal reasons. So I got to fly a Kodiak, and it was absolutely amazing. That was really the most fun job I've had at that point, right? And it also allowed me to kind of get my experience as a pilot to the next level because now I'm doing it professionally, right? And then from there, I actually did that for about 6 to 7 months. Took a break, unfortunately, for a year, not on purpose. But after that break, I came back into flight instructing, and I eventually got an opportunity to go to Arizona to finish up my flight hours. So October 2022, I officially completed my 1,500 hours. And let me tell you, it is a milestone. It doesn't come fast enough. And when you get that, now you start looking at what the next step looks like, which is get a job. I always knew that I wanted to be an airline pilot because the career is very attractive to me, and I really do love the idea of being around people and just, taking them to their destination and be part of that journey. And because it was really important for me growing up, that's how I got exposed to aviation. So I started working for a regional airline, GoJet Airlines. Started off as a first officer, and then eventually, after a year and a half, I migrated to becoming a in command captain, and that was short lived because right after I got picked up by my current airline, which is Delta, and then I switch airplanes, and now I'm flying longer distances, longer hours, fun places, and I could not be more excited. It has absolutely been an amazing journey.
Well, that's an incredible journey. It's absolutely amazing and very much big congratulations. Um, and you now hold the title of being the first female commercial airline pilot of Guinea. Now, how does that feel? That is actually an incredible title to hold. How does that feel? And I also want to ask you, how does it feel for your family? Because you mentioned about the misconceptions African families have about women in certain careers. So how does it feel to them to have in their family the first commercial female pilot of Guinea? Like that's so amazing.
So it's definitely an amazing feeling, and it took me a while to kind of get into the level of being able to even grasp the concept of what I had just accomplished, right? Because interestingly enough, I wasn't made aware of it until I broke the news to my family that I was in flight training and pursuing this career. So my dad, after I told him, he was like, wait, he was like, we don't have any women that fly airplanes in Guinea. This is incredible. I really do think that you might be the first one. I was like, oh, well, that's amazing. I never really thought about it in that sense, but because this is just something I wanted to do. But once he brought up the idea, then he started digging into it. And in fact, it did happen that I am the first female airplane pilot specifically. So there was previously a helicopter pilot from Guinea, and she no longer is. She passed away actually a few years ago. But and she started flying in the I want to say in the 60s or 70s, right? So there's been such a big gap, and there is, a major difference between helicopters and airplanes. So to imagine that no one has even had I wouldn't say the thought, because I'm sure there are people that are passionate, but I guess to take that challenge on to say, I'm going to do this, right? Because this is something that I love. I am grateful that I had the courage to pursue that. Like I said, it is a passion. I don't envision myself doing anything else. And for my family, I'm just a regular person. you know, I'm just a regular person.
Right.
So I have brothers, and if you have brothers, they don't, I mean, they are proud of me, don't get me wrong, they're absolutely proud of me. Like every now and then I hear one of my brothers lives in Australia. He was in Australia, and he was telling me recently that he came across some Guineans there, and he was like, so when he mentioned his name and like his family, and they were like, wait, your sister is a pilot, right? And that was like such a proud moment for him. So I was like, okay, so you're using me as a bragging tool. I see that. But no, it's I think for me, you know, behind the title, there's also a level of accountability that I have for myself to understand what it means to be the first, right? Because behind me, my dream would be for this to be the norm and not the exception, right? I don't want to be on this hill on my own by myself, because it's lonely. It really is. So I would like to see more young girls daring to really embark on this journey and say, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to pursue, and now here I am. Make it something normal. So one of the other things that I'm really passionate about is mentorship, and I've been doing it for years. And it really helped me, well, get to where I am first because I have mentors that I absolutely love and adore. And so I feel like when someone is placed in a position like I am, or being able to be an influence, a positive influence to others, you have to be able to cherish that and use it in a good manner. So that's what I've been working on for the past few years, to just make sure that I give back, and that I inspire others to want to be to join me, right? So I, although I didn't grow up in Guinea, in the last 2 years, 2023, I made my first visit back, and I was just amazed that I was met with such like an amazing hospitality. Everyone seemed to know who I was, and I'm a very reserved person, so it was very like, okay, this is a lot, but ultimately, right? I I I've learned to embrace it. So I've been working with a couple of my friends who are there, just trying to make some things happen, and I'm really really hoping that I'm put in a position to really be able to inspire on a bigger scale. That's my goal. That's really ultimately my goal. So yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.
Wow. Wow. I'm loving your story more and more. So Anne-Marie, obviously we know that being a pilot, the title is, it sounds amazing, everything, but we all know that it comes with a sacrifice. So what barriers did you face as an African woman entering US commercial aviation?
Wow. So I think just as a woman, the barriers are, unfortunately, in 2025, I mean, coming on 2026, they haven't changed much, right? In addition to personal barriers, that I have had on my own in this journey of getting here. Actually, in 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so, when you talk about not even knowing whether or not you're going to be here to be able to bear the fruit of your hard labor, right? Then you get to a space where now you're flying and you're met with diversity. And I always give people grace because people never know what you have on your shoulders, right? But I also know that you have to be able to be in a space where you do meet everyone with empathy because you don't know what they might be going through, right? So, I mean, I've been in seats where I'm talking to, my captains, or even just when I became a captain, talking to my first officer, and I realized, like, oh my God, like, you are more than just a pilot. You are, you're going through this, and you have a family, you have these challenges. So, for me, they have been doubted, right? I've been told that I was not built to be a commercial pilot. I've been told that I wouldn't make it this far. I've been just all of these different things that, again, grateful for the way I was brought up, because what I'm hearing is I can do this and do it with grace and still continue to thrive, right? In this, because people's opinions, especially the negative one, do not define who I am as a person, right? And I know the reason why I wanted to become a pilot, and there's nothing that would actually deter me from that. And especially going through the journey that I went through, in 2021, being when you come so close to losing something that you don't even have yet in the palm of your hands, it makes you want it even more. It makes you, once you have it, then you actually definitely want to hold on to it. So I am here today, and every day, like, I'm having fun, right? There is not one day I wake up and I think like, oh, I'm about to go fly. Poor me, right? I don't, like, you won't hear me say that because, like, I know that at some point there was a time where I didn't think that I would be here. So I am, every day I embrace it. I am grateful for the places that I go. I'm grateful for the people that I come into contact, and I'm always in a space where I feel like I can be a positive influence in someone's life. So the challenges have definitely been there, and I really hope that one day that some of these biases and things that we see, just cease to become a thing, right? That we believe that I am who I am. I am a pilot, and the color of my skin or my background don't define me. My flying skills do, right? I can get us from point A to point B, following all the rules and regulations, and make sure everybody gets there safe because I want to make it safely, right? So that is really ultimately my wish, that people would be a lot more open minded and that some of the barriers that we face are no longer. But in addition to that, one of the challenges in flight training is also financial. And I've certainly dealt with that. Now we have so many different organizations that allow people to be able to get scholarships and be involved and things like. And I definitely encourage everybody to look into those organizations because flight training is expensive, and if you don't have to bear the cost of it alone, please do not, right? But at the same time, you have to be willing to do this even if somebody's not willing to give you money, right? What is your plan B? What is your plan C? If you really want to make this work, go for it. I didn't have scholarships. Did I wish I did? Absolutely, because why not? But was I going to allow that to stop me from pursuing? No, right? So yes, challenges, absolutely, but they shape us ultimately as people. So
Wow, your story is absolutely incredible, so inspiring. I mean, your passion, dedication, your zeal for becoming a pilot, and even after all that you went through, I truly give God thanks that you're here, and I think that you've got so far to go in inspiring young girls and people all around the world, even in Guinea as well. I think, yeah, your story is amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
thank you.
Yeah, it's very touching, honestly. So how did you think that your identity as a woman has influenced the way you command a cockpit, handle pressure, or lead a crew, for example?
I actually think that that is a skill, an added bonus, if you will, because as women, we have a keen attention to detail and we actually have a poise to ourselves, the way we handle situations, that I can say that I can even see some of my male counterparts, they just handle things differently. I've been in a few emergency situations and you will not see me panic. Maybe that's my personality, but I've found that women in general handle pressure differently. So I think that has helped. And also, I smile a lot, you know, and when you come onto the flight deck and you have that positive approach about yourself, you have the positive attitude, it automatically just changes whatever misconception, bias, or apprehension that someone may have had. They just like, oh, how can you say no to a smile, right? How can you, you know? So, um, I think that everything being a woman is an added is plus. Me being in this career, it has worked out for me in amazing ways. I'm able to see the beyond what's just in front of me. Being able to put things together in a different way, and flying with some of my cats, and they just really amazed about how I just have this like really broad like like way of thinking. I think that I would attribute it to, my gender. And it's a good thing, it's a really good thing. Um, People feel very comfortable. I haven't had any major negative approach, where if anything, they're very surprised, like, oh, a woman flying us today. Oh, and she's black. And, so it's all positive things, for the most part, from at least from passengers, and from a lot of my colleagues. So I think it's a great thing. I really do. I'm looking forward to, seeing more women in this field. It is absolutely amazing. It's fun, and we can do it. We can absolutely do it. It's a job like any other job. So, and if it's something that you enjoy, it makes it even more fun.
Absolutely
Yeah,
right.
totally. Yeah. I mean, hopefully we do see more women in aviation and pilot careers. I think,
Wow, we will. Hello, there's us.
yeah,
Okay.
literally. I mean,
Exactly.
this podcast is all about, shining the light on those incredible women really flying high to encourage and inspire the next generation. So I think we're heading in a good trajectory of aviation, and we'll see definitely more female pilots in the cockpit.
I think we are too. I mean, there actually have been, even in the few 7 years that I have been in the industry myself, that I've been flying, I've seen so many changes. I mean, so many. I mean, I even think about when I was a flight instructor, I had a lot of young ladies come through, wanting to learn how to fly. And also a lot of the job is comes to exposure and also education, right? You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't see. So I wear my uniform proudly every chance I get, walking through the airport and going places, because I feel like I am, changing. I am changing the perspective of what a pilot looks like, right? And so when you have these young girls or even young boys, of minorities of color, seeing someone who is what they wouldn't think, right? It automatically kind of sparks interest in their mind. And you'd be surprised how many, like, I never shy away from having a young kid come into the flight deck and take a picture and say hi. Those few seconds, can make a change, a major difference in someone's life. And they're going to grow up and seeing that picture and remember, oh, I had this dream once and let me pursue it and this and that. And I hear that all the time. So I think a lot of it is education and continue to, just um, representation. That's the word I'm looking for. Education and representation for what piloting looks like in this day and age, right? Because we have people before us that paved the way, and we have to just continue to add on bricks to that and just continue to build on that. So I think we're in a great era of aviation. I think so.
Yeah, and I remember actually some time ago I saw a post with you and a young child in the cockpit taking a picture. And yeah, moments like that definitely install a dream and ambition and an ambition. Because I remember the first time I saw a black female pilot, I was like, wow, she is so cool. And she really made me believe that my dream of becoming a pilot was obtainable and I could do it. When you see someone like you in a certain career path or doing something, you feel like, yeah, I can do it too. So I think
Yes,
definitely all those children that you have in that come into the cockpit, they will definitely be inspired. So that's pretty cool.
absolutely. And my airline has this thing that I absolutely love. I think it's honestly the most brilliant, like, interaction tool that we have. We call them trading cards. So they're basically cards of like every single airplane that we have in the fleet. Yes, they're so amazing. I have to send you some. So you have to send me your address, so I'll send you
Yeah,
some.
that's amazing. Thank you.
But they're such an amazing tool that people ask for them because it's such a trend, and it's just an easy way to just like make that connection, right? Like, hey, here's a trading card, and I can even talk about that airplane because that's exactly the airplane that I fly. So, and every pilot, we all have them in hand, just ready to hand them out. I mean, I walk through the airport, I get stopped like, hey, do you have any trading cards? And that kind of starts a conversation. So yeah, I think that was whoever thought of that. I was genius.
That sounds pretty cool. That sounds really cool.
I was going to ask you, Anne-Marie, what emergencies, because you mentioned that you have been through some emergencies in the cockpit. Can you describe to us one of them and what was it like and how you went through the procedure and just everything?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely go through one that the most vivid one I can actually think about. I was actually going to an event. It was one of those recruiting events with my old airline. So, new captain, I'm flying with my first officer. It was so awesome because it's someone that I instructed with when I was in Arizona. And so we're going from St. Louis, Missouri to Phoenix, Arizona, to that flight school. We're supposed to be doing like a speaking engagement just to, talk to what it is like to become, to be an airline pilot, because they were in flight training essentially, and just kind of give them something to look forward to. Anyways, fast forward, we're in flight and we're giving, like descent to altitude, and we're in this airspace that is like very busy in Phoenix, and we're going to like a smaller airport that is a little bit to the east of like the Phoenix airport. I am very familiar with the area because I used to instruct out there. At this point, we are at I want to say we're coming down to like 5,000 feet, and we're given a frequency change, and we're descending, and I'm doing the flying. And so all of a sudden I just hear a pop. Like it was like a loud thud. Like, right? So I'm flying focused, on what I'm doing. And so I hear it, and I see my first officer looking at me. So then I look at him, and I'm like, okay. So we're both thinking like, okay, you heard that too, right? And then I turn back, right, to my side of the screen. And when I tell you, the screen was completely shattered on my side. Now I'm flying, right? We're basically entering, because, anything below 10,000 feet is considered like critical. So you kind of like zero cockpit. You have to be focused more on what's going on. You're in a busy environment. So I look at him, I was like, okay, pull up the checklist, see what you can find. But again, we're, like crunch time, because we're 5,000 feet giving vectors now to basically go land. So we're flying a lot of the management actually in the back. So it was a just very easy flight. We all know each other. So the cockpit door, which normally would be closed if we had passengers in the back, was open because it's all just us, right? So it's family, we call it, right? So the flight deck door is open. So we come down. Well, no, before that. So my first officer is running the checklist, and I'm like, okay, we don't have time because I see the airport, we're visual. I said, I'm making the decision to just go land, and then we'll handle the rest of this on the ground. I can see enough, and at this point, I'm just gonna continue, right? So we could given vectors, land, get everything done. I was like, let's just focus on making it to underground. So we run the checklist. Again, we're trained for this, right? And I trust him. He trusts me. We're a team, right? So we're going through the landing checklist, making sure that everything is set up, making sure that the airplane is fully configured. We didn't forget anything in the heat of everything. So we make it on the ground, and we touch down, and I turn off to exit, and I feel someone standing right here. It's the manager of the director of recruiting. And she goes, oh my God, what happened? And I said, and then she goes, how are you so calm? you know? And then so basically we had the screen shatter. Coming to find out, long story short, it was a temperature difference. So I don't know if you ever like experience glass, if it's cold or if it's hot and you pour like cold liquid on it and it kind of shatters. That's basically what happened. So leaving the super cold temperatures, we came from, it was snowing, like completely icy snowing where we came from, and just kind of going through all of that phenomena and then coming into like a warmer temperatures. Something with that just didn't really, right? Anyway, so because the door was open, one of the pilots in the back, because it was a crew of us, one of the pilots had come to like pick up something from the front area, and then he went back. Like 2 minutes later, he came back to throw away whatever the wrapping was, and he saw the screen. So in those 2 minutes that he came and went back, he saw that the screen was shattered. So he was like, I think something just happened, told people in the back. And so everybody was like concerned and stuff. But so when we landed and the director was there, she was like, he came and told us, but I don't understand how you just remain so calm with all of this. I was like, what? This is what I trained for, right? My number one priority is to make sure that I'm safe and that everybody's on this airplane is safe. I have another pilot right here. Like, it's two of us. We're good, right? But the last thing I can do is to show any uneasiness, because that automatically translates. And then, especially with you guys being in the back, you would see that I'm not comfortable, right? And that it's just not good overall thing. So, saying that to say, it went fine. We ended up, instead of turning back and leaving that same day after the event, we ended up having to stay because they had to fix the window and so on. So, but it was a really great experience, especially as a captain, just to see. Because funny enough, that scenario is a scenario that we talk about in simulator training. So it's a scenario that you could possibly be given, and then you have to kind of work through it. Most emergencies we've seen them in the sim, we've practiced them. If not, there's something that's similar that we have, worked through, that every pilot, knowing their skill, knowing their training, would know how to handle those types of scenarios, right? So, but it was a great learning experience for me. It really was. Thankfully, everything worked out, especially flying all my buses in the back. It worked out well. It worked out well. So that was one of the things I can think about, as far as emergencies. And then there's always like little stuff, right, that you have to handle. But once you've done it a few times and you've gone through so many trainings, and because we do training minimum once a year, sometimes every 9 months, you go through so many scenarios, and you really train to handle everything. That's what flying is. It's you learn to handle moments when they happen. The flying part is easy, I want to say.
Wow, that story is very shocking. Like that's that's
Oh,
kind of crazy. And I guess, I mean, certainly in moments like that, teamwork, communication, leadership, staying calm in stressful situations, those are very key, and very vital. And just to touch on more about the role and responsibility of a pilot, you mentioned to us that you are flying tomorrow, so you'll have a flight tomorrow. And I just want to ask you, I know that the day-to-day of a pilot, or like the day in the life of a pilot, it really starts from the night before. So now today, since you've got a flight tomorrow, how are you planning and preparing for that flight tomorrow, 24 hours in advance or a day in advance?
right. So a day in advance, what I do is usually, I am what they call on reserve, right? Meaning I don't have a set schedule. However, I am available to the company a certain number of days, right? That they can decide to either use me or not use me. A lot of times I get a trip 24 to 48 hours ahead of time. I know about what I'm doing, right? So 24 hours the day prior. I'm also based in Los Angeles, and I live in Atlanta. So that's literally leaving the East Coast to the West Coast, which is about 4.5 hour flight just to get to work. So depending on how many days, I know,
Sorry, you
depending
fly
on
to
how many
work?
days,
You fly to work?
I fly to work. Yes. So most people drive to work or walk. I fly to work. Yes.
You're not based in Los Angeles since it's closer to your work.
Well, I like where I live. I
Okay.
like I like being in Atlanta. I mean, since I moved here in 2009, I've always been in Atlanta. I have my community here. I have my house, and I just have my routine and my things that I really enjoy. Los Angeles is great, I'm sure, but I most of the time don't go past the airport or the hotel, right? So, um, I it's doable. It's doable.
Okay, fair enough. That's
But
crazy.
that's a valid question, because I'm sacrificing time, right? Because of the choice that I'm making to live in a different city that I work. It's definitely challenging at times, but for me, it works. But typically the day before, I know where I'm going. I know how many days I'm going to be gone for. I know like the cities that I'm going to be laying over. So I pack based on that, right? So I usually pack like extra pairs of uniform, and then I have like I like to work out when I'm on layovers. So I pack like some gym stuff. I have my sneakers in there, and just like things that I would need throughout the days that I'm gone. Typically 4 days is typical for me. 4 day trips, right? So 3 nights away from home. So yeah, I pack, and then if it's a trip that is domestic, because I actually do both domestic and international trips. Domestic is mostly on the 757, and when I'm flying the 767, that's mostly international. So if I know that I'm going to be domestic, I like to pack my food too. So I do a meal prep, then at least I know, and I love cooking. So at least I know what I'm eating. So I do that the day before. So I pack my clothes, do laundry, pack my clothes, and then do some meal prep to take with me for at least like two days. That way I'm not buying food on the road, and I enjoy my cooking, I enjoy my food. So that also helps, with my fitness journey. So yeah, that's typically how it goes. So then the day of, depending on what time my trip starts, I can sometimes leave the day of, or I have to leave the day before because I have to get there in time to be able to be rested and be able to fly. And a lot of times, again, the trips that I fly, they're long. So even if it's domestic, I'm flying 4.5, 5 hours, just one flight, going on the other side, of the country. So I try to make sure I'm rested for the day, so I can, be good and be smiley and enjoy the trip.
Yeah, and in terms of like actually like preparing for the flight in terms of like the route you're taking and weather considerations, is there any planning to do with that? Maybe checking like what airspace you're flying through, or I don't know. I don't know. Was there any kind of planning and preparation in regards to that?
So typically it depends. If it's a place that I've never been to, then yes, I would prepare ahead of time. But since for me, I have 4.5 hours to get to work, that's usually when I do my check-in. I look at the weather. We typically don't get, we call it paperwork. So like paperwork before, details about the flight itself, until like an hour prior. So an hour prior is really when you get into the details of, you know, load, how many passengers they're planning for, what is the route that is going to be, what the weather is going to look like for that route. So if I do any prep before that, it's just a general, like, okay, I've never been to this airport. Like let's say I'm going to Maui, right? In Hawaii. I've never been there yet. So I want to be familiar with what the airspace looks like, what the area looks like, if there's any preparation to do any frequencies to get like for the route itself, what does it look like? Are we going to be like completely no contact? What does that look like? So I like to do that ahead of time, because we do at my company, we do have certain procedures for certain destinations that are very specific to that destination that I definitely like to get into before, right? But as far as like checking the weather and like loads, fuel loads, things like that, about an hour prior, because that's when you actually really get like your paperwork, right? Um, I have an iPad. Everything is on the iPad, and it's so convenient because you're literally going from screen to screen, and it's just very, everything gets updated like real time. So flying has definitely evolved, and it's just like so amazing. I mean, you're able to see what weather is going to be like, all throughout, and predict. And, when we're doing briefing with the flight attendants, we tell them like, hey, maybe, for the first 30 minutes, you might want to stay seated because we're going to go through a little bit of turbulence, and nothing too heavy, but, just for safety reasons, things like that. So, or if you have like more cargo than people or things like that, just, doing those sort of like calculations. I did a lot more work when I was at my regional airline because everything was paper instead of digital. So, but it was fun actually. Part of me misses that. Everything is digital here. Everything is electronic. So it definitely makes for like a quick, check. You just kind of checking boxes and checking things. So that's what the prep looks like. So depending on where I'm going, if I'm not familiar, am I not familiar? Have I been there before? A lot of times when it's your first trip with a captain, the captain likes to take the first flight, which is a great thing because they kind of like set the tone and just kind of, and as a first officer, not being back in the what we call the right seat, I get to, okay, you set the tone and I can see how you like to do things, and things like that. Then it calls for an amazing trip. So yeah, that's what typically it looks like day in a life.
And just quickly, at what stage do you think you'll be moving towards the left seat? Like, when do you expect to get there?
Oh, that is a great question. I absolutely love being a captain. When I was at my regional, and with the airline, everything is based on seniority, right? And now that I am here, is definitely my forever airline. I am more so focused on wanting to pursue quality of life, right? Which means if I was to move to become a captain now, it might put me in a position where I don't have any control over my schedule. I'm going to fly way more than I need to, right? And things like that. So I have to kind of see what that looks like for me. Would I get back to becoming a captain again? Absolutely. I don't know that I want to do it tomorrow. And then also it depends on the airplane, right? I absolutely love my airplane that I'm flying now. And it's on this particular airplane, it might take me probably like 3 to 4 to 5 years even to become a captain on this particular airplane. So I'll have to see, right? If I move to a different airplane, am I going to like it? Where do they go? So I'm really happy where I am right now. But we shall see. I'm going to give myself a few more years to, get more acclimated with the company, get more acclimated with just everything in general. And so we'll see. So more to come.
Cool. Thank you.
Anne-Marie, your story has been honestly amazing from the beginning to the end. All your comments, advice, I absolutely enjoyed it. It's definitely been
Yeah,
unique.
yes, very much. Yeah.
Thank you. It's definitely been a pleasure being here. I love that I get to share my story and hopefully to inspire more, and I don't know if we have any parting words. I definitely have a ton because life has been one big experience in a great way for me. So, and that's what makes me like a very unique mentor is that I'm able to really relate to in a lot of different ways because I have a very atypical journey to get in here. So there's nothing, I always say, if I can be here, there is nothing that anybody can tell me as far as excuse as to why you could not make it happen. And I'll help you through it. I will absolutely help you through it. There's nothing that we can, I mean, two brains, right? Nothing that we can figure out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, your story has really been like the pure definition of determination, honestly, and resilience. And you're just absolutely focused and you're on it, which honestly, in some cases, you don't really see. But yeah, it's been amazing. And it's been a pleasure having you on today's episode.
Yeah, and Aitana and myself, we look forward to staying in contact with you. When we do get to that stage, we'll definitely be reaching out to you, asking you questions, because you seem like you have a wealth of knowledge, and yeah, you seem very eager to share it as well. So we'd love to hear more about what you have to say. So yeah, thank you so much. Just to reiterate what Aitana said, your story is very incredible. You definitely have passion, grit, determination, and it's just been so inspiring hearing your story. So thank you so much.
no, absolutely. And thank you for having me. I definitely was looking forward to this discussion. And please, when you come to Florida, you have to let me know
Yes.
because not only I go to Florida a lot, but I also live like in the state right next, like we're neighbors. So you have to let me know when you're near, so we can definitely connect. And yes, I'm looking forward to staying connected and hopefully continue to inspire, and yes, all of that.
Definitely. So that is it for today. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Fly With Her podcast.
Don't forget to tune in, take off, and fly with her.
See you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.